When I used to live in Guinea as a child, I visited my grandparents in Timbi Madina in the summertime, a small town in the highland region. And during my last trip to Timbi Madina, I was struck by how much things have changed since I was a kid. Today, Timbi Madina is an economic and agricultural hub. The town's steady growth over the last 15-20 years has been fueled by remittances from family members abroad, allowing for new infrastructure, new businesses, and opportunities to flourish. And Timbi Madina, once a province in the nation of Fouta-Djallon, is known for its breathtaking views. The rolling hills, lush valleys, and clear streams create a picturesque landscape that has always felt like home to me. So then how did my family end up in this place in Timbi Madina? This is a long story. I'm going to keep it short. It all started with a man named Hamadi Daneri, which means Hamadi the White. And Hamadi Daneri used to live in the legendary city of Timbuktu, which you probably didn't think existed, but now you know better. And in the desert region of Mali in the Sahara, he uprooted his family and they moved to the highland region of what is known today as Guinea, Fouta-Djallon. He is the patriarch of the family called the Timbhonke or the Timbhonke, which I'm part of. And when he arrived, he married two women. One was Omoro, so her descendants, her children, their descendants are called the Timbhonke Omoroyanke. And then the second woman was a woman named Jalo, and her children and their descendants became the Timbhonke Jaloyanke. And I come from that branch of the family tree. Now, they arrived in Fouta. It's not a nation yet, but the Timbhonke decided to kind of propagate and spread out into the Fouta-Djallon region. And when it came time to create the nation of Fouta-Djallon around 1726, 1727, 2 of the 9 founding members were descendants of Hamadi the White, who are my ancestors. And their children, their descendants continued to propagate, continued to spread. This time, Timbi Madina had not been created yet. And a branch of the family named individual named Mama Bodi decided to move from where they initially settled to a place called Timbuktu. He took his son, Mama Maliki took his son, Alfaja Maudo. They went to Timbuktu. But they wanted a place of their own. They felt that they would always be considered strangers in this province. So they petitioned or lobbied the ruler, the Almami of Fouta, to allow them to create a new province based upon all the goodwill that they have garnered and all the contributions they made to the creation of the state of Fouta-Djallon. The Almami agreed, said go ahead, but what you have to do is walk from Timbuktu all the way to a river called Fetore, and once you cross on the other side is where Timbi Madina will start. And that's what they did. My ancestors went up to the river Fetore, crossed, and then they arrived in Bamkure Dembeleabe, and the people there welcomed them with open arms, and the first first chief of the province was Alpha Jamaudo. And then once he passed, his brother, Bayero Jalo Yanke, became the second chief. And he is my ancestor. Many people within the Timbhonke clan spread out even further to Yorongo, Foye, Dumba. But my side of the family stayed in Bamkore, and that's why I call it my ancestral village. And you can see footage here of that place. And yeah, Timbi Madina became a thriving province, and 10 generations from Hamadi Daneri to me as a child. I used to go visit my grandfather. He used to tell me all these stories and what happened. The battles, the conflicts, the friendships and the allies. It's basically Game of Thrones without the dragons. I'll tell you about that another time. Anyways, summer times would be my time with my grandparents, running around with my cousins, having a ball, enjoying, feeling like I was part of something. And this time I go back, none of my grandparents are there anymore. My grandmother was the last remnant of that as she passed during the pandemic, and there was no sense of belonging in this compound that I grew up in. And it was bittersweet. So I tried to visit these old places I used to visit as a child, hoping to recapture some of the magic and the innocence of those days, but I couldn't. Some of those places had changed, or perhaps I had. And this feeling was deepened by the loss of my grandmother, who'd been a central figure in those cherished memories. So I made it my mission to try and recapture those memories once again. And when I was a kid, they used to talk often about Bayeroya, which is the region that Bayero Jalo Yanke essentially reigned over. And my cousins and I decided to go and discover a little bit more about our history, particularly the river Fedore in a town called Safa that a lot of people had told me about. So that's what I did. When I was a kid, and they used to tell me not to go swim in that river because sirens would pull me down, or the witches were near the soccer field, so I needed to come back by a reasonable point in time. I had people basically give me lemons as a form of protection against the evil eye because we were going in. So when you're in Rome, do as a Roman. So I grabbed a couple lemons and went out with my cousins to discover these places we've heard from many people in the family, and many people in the family hadn't actually visited either. So we wanted to go on a little adventure, which we did. And as we were visiting these other places, this river kept crossing my mind. The same river my ancestors crossed to create Timbi Madina. It had become this mystical place in my imagination, a place where the past and the present would converge. And I wondered if it would be as breathtaking as I envisioned. But I was surprised with what I found when I got there. And as we were standing there on the riverbank, I realized that this place, so deeply embedded in my imagination, was simply a river. It flowed with a quiet purpose, making its small impact on the land before continuing on its way. It was part of a much larger narrative, much like my ancestors' journey from Mali. A journey built with determination, leaving their mark and then moving on. And in that moment, I felt a deep sense of my heritage. The river, with its relentless flow, symbolized the passage of time and the impermanence of life. And just as my ancestors made waves in their time, I was continuing that journey, contributing my own chapter to our ongoing history. And this realization brought me a sense of peace. The Despite the changes of Timbi Madina and the passage of time, the essence of what my grandparents and ancestors instilled in this region still remained. Their legacy flowed through me just like the river, a symbol of our shared history.